All right, welcome to Paddle Meta-Analysis Episode 2, where we talk about all things paddles. In this episode, we're going to talk about what I'm currently maining. We're going to talk about the Selkirk 007, a few other paddles that are coming out soon. So honestly, without further ado, let's just dig straight into it. All right, so Gearbox emailed me a few weeks ago asking if I would want to check out their new wide body. And of course I said absolutely yes, because I'm a freaking gear junkie, and getting a new paddle and being able to test out these paddles is an absolute just blessing for me. I'm so grateful to be doing what I do. And yeah, I'm really happy to be able to try out these paddles and share all of this information with all of you. So we have both. So we have the Gearbox Pro Ultimate Elongated, of course, which has been out for a little while. I did want to talk about this a little bit because I didn't do a dedicated review on this paddle. But yeah, the Pro Ultimate Elongated is solid. You know, I think if you have a Pro Power Elongated and you're looking for something that is a little bit more plush, has a little bit more dwell time, allows you to take a little bit longer of a stroke on some of your shots, so you don't have to abbreviate everything. It's a solid paddle for sure. I think it does get more spin than the Pro Power Elongated, specifically, I believe, due to the dwell time that you're getting from it being 16 millimeters rather than 14 millimeters. And it's a solid paddle. I think out of the elongated paddles in the current Gearbox lineup, this would be my pick as far as elongated goes. But they did email me and ask if I wanted to try out the wide body version of their Gearbox series of edgeless paddles, and this is called the Pro Ultimate Hyper 8.0. And to be quite honest, I'm totally jumping on the wide body train. I've been a big fan of wide bodies, honestly since the beginning of playing pickleball for me. But it's a solid paddle. Really good dwell time. It's 16 millimeters. I didn't add any lead tape to the side of this yet, so I think that's something that I do need to do just to add some stability. I do like to try and play with all the paddles that I get stock as much as I possibly can, because I want to portray information to you about what it's like in its stock form, rather than what it's like in its sort of altered form, which was adding weight and stuff. But I would definitely add some weight to this. I think as far as the setup goes, I'm going to throw just a 3-gram strip of lead tape here and a 3-gram strip of lead tape here, and this will be set, good to go. But yeah, it's really nice. Obviously a much larger sweet spot than the elongated versions, much larger sweet spot than even the sort of, they were calling them the Fusion before. I think they're called the Integra now, but the sort of non-elongated, more standard shape versions that they have. I think this is the best paddle in their lineup currently. It's going to come out on November 26th, but super plush, great spin, much bigger sweet spot than the rest of the lineup. I would say that this paddle is more all court, but definitely when you rip a drive or rip a serve, it has that sort of Gearbox, trampoline effect off the face, which is nice. It does have really good control, but again, it just lacks some stability. So I think adding a little bit of lead tape on the sides will help that a lot. But yeah, this is a solid paddle for sure. Very solid paddle. So highly recommend this one if you're looking for something edgeless, wide body that has that kind of Gearbox plushness off the face. I'll throw a link in the description down below. Obviously it doesn't come out till the November 26th, but yeah, I'll throw a link to Gearbox in the description down below. All right, let's get into this Selkirk Project 007. There's been a ton of talk about this in the Discord. There's been a lot of comments on my recent videos of this paddle, and to be honest, it's pretty solid. I've been pretty harsh on Selkirk for a while now, just because they seem to be pretty behind the curve, and I feel like they have all the resources at their disposal, and they're just not utilizing them to differentiate themselves and stay ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? And but I will give them some props. We have the new throat hole design here, which is a little bit more. It's a little more open. It feels a little more sleek. It's nice. They're saying that it adds more aerodynamics than the throat hole before, which I didn't notice any difference as far as that goes. And then they have their Infinigrit, which they're touting as having 3 times the amount of durability as far as the grit durability than even raw carbon fiber paddles, which is a big claim given that this is edgeless, and we all know what the spray-on grit durability was like with, you know, the Lux and anything else edgeless from Selkirk up to this point. But yeah, it's been holding up really well, honestly. My personal RPMs came in at 2164 for this paddle for the 14 millimeter, which is certainly top tier. I haven't received the 10 millimeter yet. They will be sending me the 10 millimeter very soon, and then I'll do a dedicated review on the 14 and the 10. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, the InfiniGrit is actually holding up really well. I haven't noticed any loss of spin. I've been really just ripping the crap out of this paddle recently, and you know, doing a lot of drilling and a lot of analysis on it, and it's been holding up really well. The spin seems really solid. I haven't noticed any smooth spots. It still feels exactly like when I got it. So yeah, it's doing really well. The other differentiator here, of course, is the titanium mesh layer, which they're saying is actual titanium. Of course, we know that, you know, a lot of these other titanium paddles are just utilizing a polyester weave that has a titanium colored thread going through it, which again is not a bad thing. You know, that's giving it, you know, its own nature as far as the feel off the face. But the Project 007 is solid. I will say, I think that titanium mesh layer does give it a really nice kind of bouncy, hot nature off the face. It does have really good power. I think the sweet spot is actually pretty solid for an edgeless paddle. I didn't notice it being too ridiculously tight. I haven't used the 10 millimeter. I'm sure the 10 millimeter is pretty tight, but the 14 millimeter feels pretty solid. Again, it's $333, which is wildly overpriced, but you do get to early adopt something that they're working on, and I think that they've done a pretty dang good job on it. So I've done a lot of drilling with this on my Titan ball machine, and again, I'm impressed that the grit is holding true, and my RPM results are pretty stable. You know, in Discord recently, I've seen some people asking about vibrational dampening with this one. Yeah, it does feel a lot less rigid than previous models. So I would say that if you're looking for an edgeless paddle, specifically from Selkirk, and you have a lot of disposable income to, you know, spend on something that's this expensive, then, you know, I will say that vibrationally speaking, it does dampen the vibration more than previous models, excluding the Lux. But as far as edgeless goes, so it's a solid paddle. Pretty good. Again, my code for this one is going to be INF-STS Pickleball, and that'll give you $40 off at checkout, which is nice. So yeah, but solid paddle. So I gotta give props to Selkirk for at least innovating something that we've all been complaining about for so long, which is grit and durability of grit. So specifically on their edgeless paddles. So we'll see how it holds up, but so far so good. So I tried out the new Proton Gen 3 paddle. They actually have it skinned right now as the Series 3. So there was no new branding on it. It was just a Series 3 branding with you know, a Gen 3 core. I don't know really anything about the core yet. I will say that the grit on that paddle seemed, I don't know how that's going to come in legally. Proton's always pushing the boundaries. You know, they have a lot of science to back what they do, which is cool. You know, it adds some confidence in what they're doing, which is nice. But the grit was insane. The spin was insane. I've been working on a new serve recently, more of like a Kwang Duong style serve, more of a Western style grip, and the way that ball was dipping over the net was absolutely insane. So the grit was insane, spin was insane. I had a nice feeling off the face. Didn't feel as hot as, you know, the Mod TA15 or like a Gearbox Pro Power elongated. You know, it felt a little hotter than maybe like a, you know, just a traditional Gen 2 elongated thermoform paddle. But, you know, the spin was just insane. It didn't have like crazy dwell time. It felt pretty firm off the face. More like maybe like a Perseus 3S, how that feels a little firmer off the face than the Mod TA15, where the Mod TA15 has that sort of gearbox propulsion and that little bit of a lower pitch, whereas the 3S Perseus has that little bit of a more rigidity, slightly less power. I would say I would say that the Proton even had a little less power than the 3S Perseus from Yola, but I just can't stop saying this. I feel like a broken record, but the spin was insane. So I wasn't able to get RPM results because I only had it for just a very short period of time. But it was fun, and I'm a spin junkie. I know you all are as well, based on the views that I get on my top 5 spin videos in comparison to all my other videos. So that one's pretty exciting to look forward to. So I'll be getting those soon. The owner of Proton and the head of marketing over at Pickleball Central are going to be sending me some so that I can do some analysis for them, get some RPM results going for them, and then we'll get a review out soon on those. So on that. So yeah, exciting, but we'll see. And hopefully it actually comes in as gritty as it was, because again, I don't know how that was legal, but it was some wild spin, which is always so fun. So next up, let's talk about the CTRL2 and CTRL1 Forza from Volair. My favorite of the two is the CTRL2. I do like the wide body, just to kind of mirror or echo what others have said in the space. It's also been my exact results. It does have less spin than its raw carbon fiber counterpart, being the Mach 2 Forza. It has a little bit more pop off the face, feels a little bit more rigid, has a little bit more rigidity to it. So I don't know why it was called a CTRL, which would be control, whereas it has more pop, which would be essentially less control in pretty much all cases. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I definitely like the blue more than the green, I must say. But the design's pretty cool. Aesthetically speaking, it's pretty cool. If you're a Volair fan, I've always been a Volair fan. I love the Mach 2 Forza. I still have that in my bag, and I pull it out when I need a little more control, when I'm having an off day, or in in tournament play when I just know that I need to play more control, or if I'm playing on the right side. That's a great choice. But yeah, solid paddle nonetheless. A little bit less spin, a little more pop. Not a huge difference between the Mach 2. There's a pretty big difference spin wise, but ultimately it's a solid paddle. Very cool aesthetics. Yeah, I like it. Same thing with the Control 1. It's the same thing. A little less spin, a little more pop. Really cool design, especially in the blue format. I like it. I don't think it's tacky. I think it's pretty cool. I think the green is a little funky. Not a huge fan of that. I think anything green or white or anything that's in the relative spectrum of color as a pickleball really shouldn't be utilized from a manufacturing standpoint. Because I think that we should allow for the contrast of the ball in the face of the paddle, so they're not losing the ball into the face of the paddle. But yeah, solid paddles nonetheless. I potentially will do a dedicated review on these. I don't know if there's enough to talk about for a dedicated review, but nonetheless, they are pretty solid paddles, and yeah, Volair does some good stuff. And I will say, shameless plug, you can always use code STS Pickleball to save 10% on just about anything in the space, from Pickleball Central all the way to Volair, Selkirk, Yola, pretty much any manufacturer in the space. You can use code STS Pickleball, and that's just going to obviously support me, support the channel. I'm saving up right now to upgrade my camera, and I really want to upgrade my studio space and stuff. So any help in that regard is much appreciated, and I have a lot of gratitude for what I'm able to do, and even just getting these paddles and being able to review them is enough for me. But if you want to support my channel further, that always helps, so I appreciate it. So before we get into what my current main paddle is, I want to talk about, just really quickly and briefly, because I do want to do a whole dedicated video on this, but just how to choose a paddle these days. There are a lot of paddles in the landscape, and there are a lot of really good paddles in the landscape. So it's almost hard not to choose a good paddle these days. But what I will say is that what I really want you to do, and what I do for myself, is really analyze where your weak spots are in your game. You know, I know power is fun. I know spin is fun. I know these aspects are fun. And if it's just about fun for you, then grab a super spinny power paddle and go have fun. You know what I mean? But if you're really trying to level up your game and you really want to make an objective decision that is more strategic as far as how you pick your next paddle, you know, what I want you to do is I want you to really analyze what your weaknesses are, right? If you're missing the sweet spot a lot, maybe work towards a wide body. Even if you don't place the ball well with a wide body, or it feels a little awkward because you're used to an elongated paddle. If you're missing the sweet spot a lot on an elongated paddle, I would really urge you to try and get used to more of a standard or wide body shaped paddle, or even move to a hybrid shaped paddle. You really have to analyze your weaknesses, you know. So if you're not the quickest on the court, you find yourself moving up and having to reach for a lot of balls, right? And when you reach, you have to use your wrist, and you tend to pop balls up. Maybe you need more of a control-oriented paddle because it allows you to get there a little bit later and not pop that ball up, because that wide body paddle or more control-oriented paddle allows you to not pop the ball up nearly as much as you would with a more power-oriented paddle. You know, I think spin is something that we all want and we can all have. I don't think spin is something that could ever be bad having more of, to be quite honest. But I think you really have to analyze control, pop, sweet spot, and power, right? And so just be honest with yourself, you know, especially if you're a tournament player, especially if you want to get better at the game of pickleball, you know. I think that being able to place balls in certain spots, you know, we take Ben Johns and Colin Johns, for instance, right? They are the absolute kings of controlling, resetting, dropping, controlling, dinking, resetting, and just grinding out the points. And if you do that at a lower level and really try and play that style of game, more placement oriented, more strategically oriented, you're going to win way more games than if, take this for instance, right? Quang Duong, and maybe Christian Alshin to a degree, but Quang Duong might be one of the only people at the very top level that could win based on drives and serves, or it has a very large impact on the game, his drives and his serves. You see a lot of other bangers that go up against Ben Johns, or you see a lot of other bangers that go up against 5.0s, 4.5s. And they just get shut down because they're not ripping the ball with enough topspin and enough aggression to really end those points. You know, is it a really good strategy to have a third shot drive into a fifth shot drop? 100%. But if you're third shot driving, fifth shot driving, seventh shot driving, and trying to maintain those things with a power paddle, but you don't have the technique and the understanding to really get the amount of topspin and aggression on those drives to, one, keep them in the court with enough aggression, and two, to potentially win some of those balls more often than not, then you really need to work on placement. This is something that I've been working on a lot recently too, where it's like, you know, I just want to focus more on the resetting, the control, the placement, the analysis, where my opponent's weak spots are, and try to take advantage of those rather than just trying to bang my way through everything. You know, I think power paddles have their place for certain people and they're fun. But I think ultimately what you want to do is you really want to analyze your own weaknesses. You want to strengthen those weaknesses, and maybe just analyze think about how often you're winning when you drop the ball, when you dink and you play more methodical, versus how often you win when you bang the ball. If you win very often when you're banging, then play with a power paddle, get a really spinny power paddle and enjoy that aspect. But if you're not winning very much when you're banging, or you're hitting the net, you're hitting the ball out, and you're finding that a lot of the times you can just allow the other person to make the mistakes, and you can drop and dink and reset, and it brings you joy, and it brings you, you know, a sense of accomplishment to win playing the game that way, then I would urge you to move a little bit more into the control spectrum. You know, maybe grab a J2 Ti or a Mach 2 Forza or something in that spectrum and really work on that aspect of the game. But as far as choosing a paddle goes, I think that these are the things that we really need to take into consideration, is the percentage of wins when I'm playing aggressive versus the percentage of wins when I'm playing methodically and strategically, and really being objective with that, especially if you want to get better at the game of pickleball. So lastly, let's go ahead and talk about my current main paddle, which it still is a bit of a toss-up between the J2 Ti and the J2K. I know that that's been a little bit of a broken record over the past year, but yeah, I love these paddles. I think that it's not only because they have a great price point. Really, price is not considered as far as my personal main paddle, because I have really all of these paddles at my disposal. I have 80 plus paddles in my closet. I have another 30 over there on the floor, and I have paddles everywhere. So I could play with anything that I want to play with, but these two paddles really just embody what I'm looking for in my personal game. I'm looking for something that's all court, but something that leans a little bit more control. And so the J2K, for instance, is going to be all court, but leaning a little bit more control, where it has some good pop, some good power, right? So I can rip a third shot drive. Every once in a while, I'll get a winner off of it, but more often than not, I can rip a third shot drive with enough aggression that they give me a weak fourth, and then I'm able to do a drop into my fifth and have a much easier drop on my fifth shot, which is one of my favorite strategies right now, especially with the J2K, because it allows my drops, my resets, and my dinks to be very linear. I can hit more drops, dinks, and resets with a J2K than really any other paddle outside of maybe the Mach 2 Forza, but it just feels so dang good, and then it has just enough pop and just enough power to really get the job done. As far as the J2 Ti goes, this one's going to be, after breaking it in, it's actually changed a little bit. I feel like it's a little more plush now. And so I would actually lean this a bit more into the control spectrum than the J2K, just a bit more. So it does have a little bit more of a plush nature. I can control the ball a little bit better. My pop-ups are less, dinks are really solid, drops are really solid, resets are really solid. But I do like having a little bit more aggression at the line for hand volley battles, and that's where the J2K really comes in, because I can really get a nice pop off the face. I can stay in battles and end battles a little bit quicker with the J2K, and it still has enough control to really get the job done. So I would say for you, if you're looking between one of these two, I would go with the J2 Ti if you're really looking for a hybrid paddle that has really solid control, but still fits into that kind of bottom area of all court. And then I would go with the J2K if you're looking for something that is, has a little bit more pop and, maybe a touch more power than the J2 Ti. And that's after break-in. When I did get my J2 Ti in the beginning, it did feel like it was like best of all worlds. It was incredible. After it's broken in, it has become a little more plush. So I would say it's a little bit more control oriented than the J2K. As far as my personal main right now, it was the J2 Ti for a while. Now I'm back to the J2K. So the J2K is what I would take to a tournament tomorrow. The J2K is just, it's my favorite paddle right now. I love it. Just enough pop to get the job done. Just enough power to get the job done. Extremely high quality construction, unibody through and through. It's 100% Kevlar. I mean, just everything about it just feels super solid. The grip, I'm a big stickler on the grip, and the grip of the J2K just feels so solid all the way around. Of course, I do put an overgrip over the top of the grip, but even then, like, just I don't know, there's something just about certain grips where certain grips feel really freaking good and certain grips just feel a little off and kind of funky. But yeah, it's just, right now for me, it's my perfect paddle. So that's what I'm using as far as my current main. So again, you can use, so if you're looking at the J2K, so the Kevlar line from Honolulu Pickleball, you can use code STS Pickleball. You can get $20 off one of these, which I believe takes it to $135, I believe. And then on the J2 Ti, my code is STS10, which gives you 10% off, which makes it like I can't remember, 143 or something dollars, but yeah, super solid paddles. The J2K is just what I've been using, and I love this paddle, and it's just my go-to, and I just can't seem to put it down. So yeah, so I hope that I can just provide some value for you and help, you know, level up your pickleball game in some way. You know, I'm definitely a very tech-oriented human, a very gear-oriented human. I'm a paddle head. Even if I wasn't doing reviews like this, I would have so many paddles, and I love that aspect of sports and really anything that I do. But you know, I'm really passionate about this, and you know, my whole goal here is to give you insight and give you some sort of feel, some sort of understanding of what these paddles feel like, so that you can make an informed decision on your next paddle, so that you're spending your hard-earned money wisely. I really do hope that I can help better your game in pickleball. I hope that you see my passion and that I am providing some sense of value to you. And I really appreciate you being here, watching, sticking around until the end of the video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps out the channel. You know, of course, you can use my code STS Pickleball, really on pretty much anything in the space. And you know, it really means a lot to me, your support. So I hope this was valuable to you, and I hope you have a freaking wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.